Hello and welcome. Folks, today we're looking at forced eviction on state lands. And I've always wondered why is it that the government of the day would wait for a slum area to spring up, settlements established, a community and forms route before letting them. I just wonder, and I'm sure you're also wondering why it always happens. Because anytime one person moves in, we all make this assertion that, hold on, there is an illegal settlement coming up in a particular area. We sit and wait for years. And after they've all settled down, one day, somebody would move in with tractors and decide to evict them. And then we cry for human face, we cry for sympathy, we cry for extra time, and year in, year out, it continues. I just want to find out, how does it work? Does one person just moves in and then calls his cousin and say, move in next door with me? Indeed, how long do they have to stay there before they become legal? Before they own the land where you can no more evict them? I don't know. But I'm sure by the end of this conversation, you know. And the mayor, isn't he amazing? The mayor is now a prophet, arresting our colleague or my colleague because he claims that in going to film the eviction and showing the plight of the people who are now homeless, they are there to make the state look bad, and therefore calls the police, and the police, being that the mayor is quote unquote a big man, also adheres to his instructions and arrests them for God knows what we are yet to find out. What city has a mayor like that? Ours. And they say the quality of the leader depends on the quality of the people. And if we don't improve our quality, I'm sure this is what we deserve. And by the end of the show, you will know. When I come back, I will introduce my guest. My name is Nana Ansakwa, and this is PM Express.
For many years, M-Guinea, a slum behind the arts center, had been home to many families. Many of the residents have to find another place to live now because city authorities had demolished their structures. The people were given 3 days to remove their property because the community had recorded many cholera cases. So the Accra mayor's solution to the insanitary conditions in the community was to bulldoze the buildings there. We set out at 9 p.m. to tell the story of the people of M-Guinea. Some were already moving out their items. So we walked up through the community to find out how the people were living their lives after the demolition.
Anna, yet I am at an I come 18 years, Honey, Yuma, Edition and Kola. Yawana Metro down one say 3 days per yen to ampas 3 days no medicate Ebe Drew Danning na and it's a that one to any baby.
Many of the people looked pensive and worried. Some were tired, and others were resting for the day. On tables, chairs, and on any surface they could find comfortable. Mothers had their babies strapped at their back while resting. Some were just hanging in there, trying to put body and soul together. This woman says she cannot afford rent because she had spent all her money buying books and paying the fees of her only son, who is now in the senior high school. The woman said they have nowhere to go, pleading government should give them more time so they adequately plan and move out. Tuesday night, and say one for well, Obana, or see Qualila. Yes, I sent her yet in your faces, yen nipper to do Iowa. Young say a nipper back, Qualilatiwa, and a nipper back say, and so be our. So by no see Qualila nipper move our I Santa. I sent us with you, yen show. Auntie, yet one or see Friday. I say, Wabu, ya dine and call me any baby.
Yeah, Vana Pochose, yes, Lana, only a mobile, no more dark. Yes, Lana Pachon, I did more only your mamma in a slow moina, pennyphone, yes, slow moina.
This side of M-Guinea looks busy and bustling.
So many of these people are seated here, and they're not just doing it for fun or are they having any rally or any other meeting, but it's because they are scared that authorities will come with bulldozers and destroy their properties at night. So they are being very vigilant, protecting their lives and their property.
Spokesperson for the community is Kofi Esiedu.
Governor Boy and his team are coming this dawn or this night to come and demolish the area. That's why you see my people, most of them standing. They are scared. They don't know what to do. Look at, I'm sure you've seen the families. Look at where some of them are lying. And I'm sure it's not fair. We are not saying we are not going to go. At least let's sit down and talk. Give us time so we leave. We are all Ghanaians. We are all Ghanaians. Look, we don't even have light. They've disconnected our light. Even water, they've disconnected our water too. So how can we live? How can we live now?
As he ends his account, we get to know that the police had come to arrest us because the place was marked for demolition.
Proceed. Relax. You know what I want you to do? Just take the card.
See, you be the camera is...
Take the card off.
Jojo Kobna, Joy News.
So that's exactly what happens. The mayor claims that the news team encouraged, coerced, forced, put a gun to their people's heads so they sleep on the floor so we can film it and then the government will look bad. And I was just wondering, after you broke in some of these houses, I mean, what did they think? They were going to check into La Palm or the Golden Tulip to sleep? Where else did they have to sleep? But that's the story we are going to discuss today. We're going to look at it from the slums angle and from the illegal angle. From my immediate left is our legal practitioner, Charles Lewing Pusing. Charles, you're welcome. Thank you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And then to my extreme left is Abdullah Al Hassan. Now, he's the secretary for Slums Union of Ghana. I never knew they had a union, but they have a union. And he would really educate us today as to how the whole thing comes about. Abdullah, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I don't know who to start with. But Abdullah, I think you need to educate us. We just want to find out how it starts. Does one person or two people move into an empty patch of land and then say, look, oh, Abdullah, I found this land, just come next door? How does it work?
Well, in Ghana, most of the slums we see around, it wasn't created by one person moving in to settle. Most of them were actually settlements. It was the first people who came there were brought there by the government. And some of them, it was like this particular community, it was the fishermen who go to sea and then come back. They decided to settle very close to the sea. So it wasn't one person, but a group of people who started it. But as time went by, people joined them, and then gradually it becomes a big community.
Okay, so there's another slum coming up in or around the motorway.
Yeah.
What's their story?
I have noticed that one. You see, that particular one, we have been sounding a word of caution to the authorities. If they know that that settlement is illegal, they should tackle it early. But when the people settle there for a long time and they decide to go in and forcefully evict them, we would not
so for that one, even you are concerned?
Yes, of course, we are not encouraging lawlessness. When you see that people are settling where they are not supposed to, we encourage that you stop them. But if you don't stop them after some time and they are comfortably settled with children and women they have married from somewhere to come and settle there, and you come to forcefully evict them, that one we are against it. So those areas, yeah, we've noticed that slums are developing there.
Let's go to Abu Bulushi before we'll narrow out.
Okay.
How did Abu Bulushi come up?
Well, Abu Bulushi, it started, initially there was a community there called Fadama. And then because the land wasn't habitable, the land was very soft, there was frequent flooding and even mud slide. So the Kwame Nkrumah government decided to move the people, resettle them. He did not forcefully evict them. He moved them from that place to the place we now call New Fadama. And then he settled them there. And the land was left fallow. Nobody was on that land until when there was a conflict in the northern region. Then there were some refugees came down to the south, and they were living in the yam market, which is now the timber market now, with at the rival tribe. So it was between two tribes. All the tribes were living there together, so they were always having quarrels. So the government decided to take one of the tribes who were also selling yams. The government decided to move them from the timber market now to the current yam market that we have in Accra and settled them there. Then people were building kiosks around the market because they were selling and sleeping in the market. That is how the place started developing. Then later, when they were going to have to be a non-alliance conference in Accra, so there was one market around the ministries. The government moved the market from there to make the city look beautiful. So that market too was moved to the area. So they went and joined them. Then the community became bigger. So people started moving in. And because the market was there, there was this ready job for head porters. So all the head porters moved in there to carry load for money. Then young guys who were strong also moved to the yam market to offload and load yams on trucks. So the community started developing, and gradually it became a settlement.
So if I have, 4 big plywoods and a roofing sheet, I can come and say, look, I'm just coming to build mine here. Or do I need to consult like an elder or something? How do I build and stay?
Normally, the way people come in there, when you are coming for the first time, most of the time, those who come there, they cannot afford the kiosk immediately. So when you come in for the first time, most of the time you sleep outside. Now there are mosques, so the Muslim young guys will sleep in the mosque. Some people will sleep at the lorry parks. But when they start making money, then they'll start saving. And then gradually, because the land was very muddy, so if you want to build, it's there. There's even water. Most of the time you find that the place will be flooded. So you go to the timber market, then you carry sawdust, you come and fill the place. Nobody will ask you to pay or anything, because that place, you can't use it for anything. So you go and bring the sawdust, fill the place, and then make it okay. Then you bring stones or sometimes block, and you put it down, and then you start building your kiosk on it. When you are done, then you also have a place to sleep at the end of the day.
Charles, clearly they've earned their rights to that patch of land.
Basically, from what Alasa has been saying, it amazes me for the fact that the background story is that the government settled people on slums, and that is a surprise to me, because basically it ought not to be the case. Because when you are doing a resettlement, you need not create a slum. Because in most cases, people actually move from the slums to resettle in proper areas because of it might be health issues, it might be other issues, safety, and even public morality can be a basis for which people are moved from slums to other places. I think that to a larger extent, others are created out of the act of squattering. Because if you go to the East Legon part, the motorway part, it's because those days a lot of people had caretakers on their lands. Now the place seems to be developing, so people are moving out their caretakers. And because they've become used to their place, they've moved their kiosks across the motorway, because that's the only land that seems to be lying vacant on the motorway, because that's the buffer, the motorway extension.
Now let me
buffer.
just interject. So whoever is the MC, mayor responsible for the motorway area, if it's your friend or if you are watching, don't wait so that 5 years' time we are here with your bulldozer doing this show again. We could use the show to educate somebody else. So, get to work. Charles, sorry for interjecting.
So basically, what happens usually is that the other starts is from the way he said it was established, which I don't have any factual reason to doubt him. But as I said, in my own view, I think that usually these things are done by the states. If you are going to resettle people, don't resettle them on a place that is not conducive for human habitation from his description of the place. And so some too are based on squattering. People go to there, they find empty land, they need to make bread, and everybody seems to think that it is better done in the city.
Charles, but even if the state moved them there, you look at this Guinea story, and if you look at Agbublushi, I mean, has the place not gotten too unhealthy where the state can come and say, look, this is not habitable, now you have to move. Whether I brought you here or not, I can't continue to keep you here because, I mean, you are a danger to yourself and society.
That is right, but it then depends on I think their complaint was based on the fact that they were not given enough notices. And unfortunately, this is always a part that we hear, which is the one that the victims complain of. Because there are instances where the institutions give them ample notice. Even they come, write the notice, and they clean them up. So there are instances that the notices are given time and time again. So it gets to a stage where the institution is fed up. And therefore they move in immediately because it's like, we have a lackadaisical attitude in Ghana where we give notice and we never follow up. They'll come and tell you, do not do this by this day. You get there and people are still doing it and nobody seems to be bothered. So I believe that it is that attitude that has created all these slums, and the same attitude that has resulted in other persons losing their livelihood because maybe people have their investments in those slums. Somebody's either having his children there, he has a few stuff he's keeping in there, people have their sewing machines there, people have their... So people also lose their investments through that, however little those investments are.
Abdullah, I mean, the living conditions, I mean, can't you, I mean, because obviously if you're a secretary, you speak very well, so why don't you gather people and say, listen, it's not acceptable, we can't live like this. Yes, we may not have money to build mansions, this is all we can do, but neatness hasn't got anything to do with money, and normally the area is not neat. So, I mean, why do you let so much filth engulf you?
Yeah, with the filth, the community itself has days that we come up to do our own cleaning. But the point is that when we clean, we gather the refuse, the rubbish, and we put it down. We don't know where to put it because the city authorities say that the place is an illegal settlement. Therefore, they will not assign any waste management company to come there. So we don't have these waste bins to dump our refuse, and we cannot carry it to the landfill site outside Accra. So most of the time we'll gather the refuse there, and then when it rains, it's all over again, or when the wind blows, it's all over again. And sometimes also, because in Agbublushi in particular, because the community is bordered with the Kole Lagoon, which is connected to the Odo River, the filth is carried from around other communities in Accra, circle and all around, and then water moves it to the community. So when it gets there, it's stuck. So you come and see it and you think that all that filth is from the community, but in actual fact, it's not from the community. And we can constantly clean it, but when we gather it, we don't know where to put it. We have made several appeals to the city authorities, and all they tell us is they cannot assign waste management company to the community because it's an illegal settlement.
I'm going to take a break and find out, normally when you evict people from an area like that, where do they go? I mean, in their numbers, thousands, 2,000, where do they go? Do they go back to their respective villages, or do they come back and rebuild and stay there? And how long do you need to stay on the land for you to say, oh, I've stayed here for 7 years, 10 years, therefore I own it or have the right to live here? And do you need compensation before you move out? Which is which? Stay tuned. Forced eviction on state lands, and I'm talking with Abdullah Al-Hassan, Secretary of Slum Union of Ghana, talking to Charles Lewinga Posing, who's a legal practitioner. Charles, let me bring you in here. At what point, I mean, we had a lady saying she's lived there for 18 years. I mean, after 18 years, she must be entitled to something on that patch of land that she lives in. And if indeed you're going to move her from there, you need to find another abode, compensate, or buy the land back off her. I mean, what's her legal?
You see, it's so difficult to determine whether a person who is a squatter on state land can have certain rights that can be protected, unlike us between individuals where...
It's 18 years.
Yeah, unlike between individuals where if you are on an individual's land for a certain period of time, mostly 12 years, they say that you've been caught by the limitations in pursuing your interest in the land. It's not the same as I know of any law that prevents the state in asserting its rights, whether you've been on the land for more than 100 years. I think that the problem arises in the nature of the acquisition processes that are done by the state, in the sense that there's no much publicity and people do not know what really goes into the lands that are acquired by the state and the purpose for which they've been acquired. So usually the difficulty is that people find land which are state lands, they enter upon the land and decide to develop such lands and live on them. There's also no post-management of state lands. That is to say, when these lands are acquired and they are not used immediately for the purpose for which they have been acquired, what do the state do? Are we going to get people, quote, as guards for the lands by the state? That is going to be difficult. So I believe that because of the fact that the state has power and the state through the various assemblies have their bylaws and institutional laws, it's easy for them to eject you at any point in time so long as you are on their land, because they have several reasons. One, you must build in compliance with the planning system. So such persons will obviously build without permits. Mm-hmm. They will either erect the kiosks, which are not generally designed for those areas. So that even the assembly, even if they were going to be there, the assembly has a certain right to say that you build without a permit, and by our laws, once you build without a permit, you could be ejected.
How about the issue of homelessness?
You see, the issue of homelessness, I think it may be taken in the context of morality, not legality. Is in the context of a moral argument, where you can make a moral argument that,
can't they make a legal argument that you can't make me homeless, because you can't render anybody homeless?
No, you have not been rendered homeless in the eyes of the law, because if you build on something that is not yours,
it's still not considered a home.
Yes, it cannot amount to a home, because it cannot crystallize itself to a home, because you have built on state land and therefore the state ought to keep you on the land. Because every land is acquired for a certain purpose. And therefore, once that purpose is defeated, then what it means is that people build haphazardly on lands that have been acquired by the state and indiscriminately.
You know that the land is not for the purpose in which you guys are using it for, or your members are using it for. So by all means, one day they're going to bring the bulldozers and tear it apart. And then you're going to call on the media, so we have to see a media face. Now, in Chi, this is you're becoming too stubborn. Why don't you apply to the city authority and say, look, this is the patch of land and we want to live on it legally, and therefore give us some perimeters or demarcate it neatly, so we put drains and stuff in there so we can live here, rather than the haphazard thing you do, which always end up this way. And I'm sure all other slums, I mean, it won't come today, but lazy officials, they'll wake up one day and they'll bring their bulldozers. And you are the secretaries. What are you telling them?
Yes, normally, those who build, most of them are not aware that that place is for a certain project. For instance, the Agbogboloshi case, the people were brought there, so they felt it's okay to build. Until just recently, I think that was 2009, that we got to know that that land was acquired for a certain purpose. But around 2006, 2005, no one would have liked to even come and claim that land because it wasn't habitable. We had to go outskirts of Accra to come in with sand to fill the place so that we can build our kiosks. And now that it is okay, it can now build houses, then we are told that it is for a certain purpose. But before then, we didn't even know. There was nothing there to show that this land is for a certain purpose, maybe a signboard to show that this property is to be used for this, etc.
How do you get electricity connected?
Of course, the ECG provides us electricity, and I must commend them for that. Because even as and when the load is not enough for the community, they come in with more and more transformers. And I must say that they are doing very well because the place is so congested and it's very dark in the night. If we hadn't got electricity, it would have been a mess. And they are doing very well for that.
Charles, you are the lawyer.
Basically, I think the ECG, now I think they have some rights that they've acceded to Gridco, for that matter. So the connectivity issue depends on which institution runs the collection and the transmission as well as the supply to those various areas. I believe that if that is the case, then it is more of a difficulty in terms of if there are fire outbreaks, what happens in those areas.
Because I consider ECG as the state.
Yes.
So the state cannot provide you electricity and then the state turn around and tell you that, look, where you're living is not right.
No, that's what I said. The state, now you have ECG. We have the VRA, ECG, and Gridco.
All belonging to state.
Okay. Now, in terms of Gridco, we look at it as a more of a
no, but
company setup.
They don't deal with Gridco. They will deal with ECG as the last guy who just gives you energy to your house, and they belong to the government. It's not a private individual.
That I'm saying, because we are not discussing ECG per se. But what
I'm just trying to find out what legal standing they have, because if I'm living here and the state has provided me with electricity, then somehow I know that, well, I must be...
You see, it is possible that under the connectivity system, a particular electrical pole ought to be mounted to make it accessible to other areas. In terms of those ones,
have you guys got meters that you pay?
Yes, we have meters, but in our case, we have 1 meter for a lot of homes. Then they contribute to pay at the end of each month. It's not as if a meter to a house or let's say a meter to a family. But 1 meter serves so many houses.
So everybody puts in like 2 cities, 2 cities, 2 cities. You buy your credit and then you serve everybody.
These ones are even not prepaid. They are the postpaid meters.
Maybe have the better ones.
Yeah, so as I was explaining, so it's possible that in terms of the slum, there could be connectivity because of the poles that ought to be erected to pass through the same place to places. Sometimes, if you run an institution like that, in order to prevent maybe the illegal connectivity of it, you try to, in some way, maximize revenue, instead of allowing them to tap the power themselves. You may try to, as a way, find a way of doing some collection so that there's no illegal connections. But I'll be very much surprised that if those places are set up that way, they give them various meters and they pay.
In our case, for the case of Abubulushi, it's not as if the electricity is passing on. May I ask
where you live?
I live in an old Fadama. That is the place most people call Abubulushi.
Okay.
Or some people call it Sodom and Gomorrah, which we hate. It's a very negative name, and we don't tolerate it because there's no reason to call that community that name.
Is it not a health hazard? I mean, driving past, when you look at it, is very, very scary.
Honestly,
I haven't been inside before.
Honestly, it is. I have lived there for a very long time. I grew up there, and I know it's a health hazard. But the condition...
How many people are there now?
Currently, there are over 100,000 people. Because we had our enumeration in 2010, and at that time we were 79,000 people. So we are looking at about 100,000 people now.
I mean, you're due for your own DCE now. That's a whole.
Yes, and
that's a whole district.
I do agree that there's health hazard, and the place is not conducive for living. But it's not anybody's will to live in such a deplorable condition.
No, what I'm saying is, for 100,000 people, even if every 2 people paid 1 cedi a month, that's 50,000 Ghana cedis a month. Mm-hmm. By the end of the year, don't you have enough money to start beautifying the place? You would have.
Of course, we want to develop the place. We want to make the place very neat. But the city authorities will not allow us. We have made several appeals to them to regularize our stay there, so we can create our own routes. We can do it ourselves. We can create our own drains. We can build our own homes this time around, not with wooden structures, but proper concrete buildings. Though we may not be able to build big houses like other communities, but at least we can build 1 room, single room, and then you are done. But the city authorities keep telling us that they will come in and evict us. And because they want to, we know they might come in at any time. We don't also want to invest our little monies that we have in the community. But we can develop it ourselves.
So,
I believe that, I think that if from what Alasa is saying, indeed is what they want to do, basically there are several procedures when you want to have land given to you by the state. What happens is that if indeed the place is already described as a slum, and therefore that act or that fact alone will be a reason for them to refuse you any regularization of your interest, or for that matter how you develop the area. I believe that what they should do as a union is first to have a layout of the entirety of the place. That means they have to appoint surveyors. Get somebody who is a planner. You see, because obviously once it is already a place that is tagged as a slum, if you are going to go on those bases, you have a difficulty in anybody trying to regularize people to live in a slum. But assuming that you have a survey of the entirety of the area, and they are maybe well done with drains and roads, with even smaller portions, because we generally would say a plot may be 70 by 100. But now, because there are a lot of you, you may have to reduce the plot size to maybe your plot will be a 30 to 50 or a 30 to 40.
Or even smaller.
Even smaller. But so you have a proper layout of the whole area. Once you have that with any form of proposal attached to it, that this is what we intend to do in this area if we are given the permission to do so. I don't think that the state would authority or the assemblies will insist that we necessarily will have to come and break down the place. Why am I saying so? Because this breakdown, I think, was engineered by the outcry of cholera, and with the suspicion of an impending Ebola or whatever, which is gassing across other parts of West Africa. So I believe that those are the things that informed the authorities to move in. Yes, I heard the woman say that there's no outbreak of cholera. That is the positive. What if it happens?
Have you had any cholera at Agbooloshi yet?
Yes, I've heard of one case.
Make sure it doesn't spread. We're going to take a break, and then when I come back, we'll continue. And then we'll also look at the mayor's conduct, having media persons arrested for covering such stories. Who else is going to let the public know whether it's good to settle somewhere or not? Stay tuned, we're coming. Now, let's look at a bit of legal aspects. Ako Van der Poel, mayor of Accra, says he gets a call to say that the TV crew is at M-Guinea about to do a fabricated story. I think it's very prophetic of him to know what story was going to go. Obviously, the story was about the plight of the people after the demolition. Anyway, he asked the police to arrest the team and that he was going home, and then the following day he will bring his charge as to why they should be arrested. And true to his word, the police hold my colleague for the mayor to take home the statement sheet and bring it the next day as to why they should be arrested. And he says that offensive conduct. So the journalist was arrested for offensive conduct. So we are yet to find out as to whether he was pulling funny faces or...
Basically, the offense, the charge of offensive conduct basically is, we lawyers call it a misdemeanor, which means it's one of the lesser offenses. Basically, it's to any conduct that has a likelihood of breaching the peace. Then you are charged with offensive conduct. That is to say, any act you do which is likely to breach the peace.
Charles, but media has always been there when demolition, and we've always been there after demolition. I'm wondering how you breach the peace in covering the plight of people.
That's what I'm saying, that is the charge for which I don't know whether it's the police that are prosecuting or they have charged the media man with the offense.
Well, he was arrested and that was his charge, so he's actually on bail to go back tomorrow.
Okay, so basically what I'm saying is that they have to show that indeed he engaged in some conduct which had the likelihood of breaching the peace. But that is for them, that is their burden to show that by going there to cover the plight of the people in video form or in speeches would have amounted to a breach of peace. That would depend on what evidence they'll put together.
Why would the police hold someone? Because the minister, the mayor is going to go home and come back tomorrow and tell us why we are holding you.
And because I do not know that, but if that is the case, then that is wrong, because it is you see, the individual, as a citizen of Ghana, has a right to prevent crime. That is the first thing. So once you have a right to prevent crime, what you need to do is that any time there's a likelihood or there's a commission of a crime, you can alert the police. In some cases where the act is being committed, the law permits you to arrest as an individual, to arrest the person committing the crime. So in terms of the mayor informing the police, he's not wrong, because you can give the police the information that there's a likelihood or there's a crime about to be committed. Then it is the duty of the police to get to the scene and ascertain for themselves whether or not indeed the fear, the apprehension of fear that the mayor had, and inform them is true or not. It does not lie in the mouth of the mayor to insist that arrest the man, you police, keep the man till I come tomorrow. It is not right. It's a breach of the man's fundamental rights. It is the duty of the police to ascertain that aspect of crime. It is not the duty of the mayor. He can say that, yes, in my presence the crime was being committed. I want you to investigate. At worst, he's just what? A witness to the event. So he only writes a statement, and the police are left to make an informed decision whether or not they intend to prosecute the man based on the facts they've gathered on the ground. But he cannot use his office and then say that, arrest him, keep him till I come back tomorrow and tell you what he did. It is very wrong. It's a violation of the person's right, both by the police and by the mayor. And that is wrong.
The sad aspect is, when the mayor's, according to reports, when the mayor's car pulled up, obviously the driver is in the car, the cameramen and the journalists are on site doing their interviews, and so they detained the driver and put the driver in the mayor's car to go and look for the other colleagues who are perpetrating the crime. I mean, that's near kidnap.
No, that's why I said it is a violation of their rights. You see, even the man who sat in the car, what was he doing? Nothing.
Well, the mayor, I mean, he was arrested at gunpoint. The driver was arrested at gunpoint. I mean, hands up. Literally, hands up. The driver who was sat there waiting for his camera crew to come, and it's 9 p.m. He's probably, that's not where he wants to be. He was arrested at, hands up, and let's go.
So I think that what we need to do is just because of the general idea that we all have, and for me, if it were me, I think that the station should pursue the matter to its logical conclusion. What were the reasons, and whether indeed it was the mayor ordered the detention.
Oh no, I mean, I'm talking on facts. I mean,
yes, now I'm saying that, yes, so if it was the one who ordered the detention, then the police officers that indeed carried out the act whether they are answerable to the mayor or to their heads, in terms of whoever heads their individual departments or units. Because I believe that you, as a citizen, you are entitled to prevent crime and the destruction of property. You are also allowed to report to the police for those conduct. But beyond that, you cannot order the detention of any person unless it is an informed decision made by the police and the security services. That's why they have those powers under the Constitution to detain people for a certain limited period of 48 hours, or where they think that there's a need, they get to the court for an extension if the court reasonable thinks that it is right to do that in the circumstances.
It's an ongoing case and we haven't even started it yet. Forget about getting to the bottom. 100,000 people in Agbogbloshie. I mean, is it multiple birth or is it multiple migration? Which is which?
It's both. I say both because most of the people in Agbogbloshie are the youth. It's between 45 and age 1. So we have children there. And then most of them migrate from other parts of the country. Initially, it used to be from the northern region.
You're saying that when they break down slums, they all head to?
Yeah. At this time, there are a lot of people from the central region, Volta region, and then eastern region in Agbogbloshie, partly because the other small slums that are evicted over the last 3-4 years, most of the people there were from these regions and they moved to join the people of Agbogbloshie. Now, because they are also youth, they marry, they give birth to children. So that's why the population keeps increasing.
I think we have to do a part 2 of this show because all too soon, that's what time will allow me, but we haven't even exhausted anything about it at all, because the next question is, if the day they put the bulldozers into Agbogbloshie, where are they going to move to? Because they would have to form a whole district. So the EC would have to form a whole electoral division for them and have their own DC. That's going to be the day that happens. But gentlemen, thank you very much. And
I'm grateful.
Tomorrow we'll be back to do it all over again. But whatever it is, stand your ground and know your rights. Let's all educate ourselves because this is not on. And I hope it won't happen again. Folks, thank you very much for watching.